Hi everyone, Dr. Mike here. In this video, we're taking a look at cardiac arrhythmias, sometimes termed dysrhythmias. Let's take a look. All right, so to begin, there's many different ways you can look at these electrical issues of the heart. The way I like to talk about it is looking at two major banners. First, we know that the heart needs to form an electrical signal, right? So this is impulse formation, and it needs to take that electrical signal and propagate it through the rest of the heart. This is what we call impulse conduction. So you can break down cardiac arrhythmias or dysrhythmias according to altered impulse formation and altered impulse conduction. Easy. We're going to start by looking at the impulse formation issues. So ways in which when we form the electrical signal, there's a problem that's happening and that results in a cardiac abnormality or arrhythmia or dysrhythmia. So I've broken that up into two different subcategories: altered automaticity and a triggered activity. So what do we mean by altered automaticity? Let's first talk about what we mean by automaticity. So first thing we need to understand is the heart, if I were to draw it up here. So I've got the heart here. And then the heart has this fibrous tissue. That's important because it separates electrically the atrial conduction and the ventricular conduction. And remember that we've got the conduction network of the heart. And the conduction network is made up of specialized myocardium that have what we call automaticity. So it can automatically fire off. It can spontaneously depolarize. And that's going to be made up of the SA node. It's going to be made up of the AV node. It's going to be made up of the bundle of His. Then it's going to be made up of the left and right bundle branches. So bundle branches. And then we've got the Purkinje fibers. Okay, now these are not only the conduction network, so they propagate the electrical signal, but they all have pacemaker activity. They all have pacemaker activity. So they all have automaticity, so they can fire on their own. Now the thing is that you've probably only heard of the SA node as being the pacemaker, and that's because it can fire off 60 to 100 beats per minute. The AV node will only go to around about 40 to 60 beats per minute, while the rest of this conduction network is anywhere from 20 to 40 beats per minute. So what that means is, because this one's firing off first and most frequently, as it then propagates the electrical signal, it sends it to the AV node and overrides it and says, now send this signal on, and so forth, okay? But they all have automaticity. So what you would say, and this is important, is that the SA node is the primary pacemaker, but the AV node, the bundle of His, the bundle branches, and the Purkinje fibers, they all have what we call latent pacemaker activity. It's going to be important in a second. So if we talk about altered automaticity, it's going to be a problem with any of these, okay? First one I want to talk about is that of issues with the sinus node. So how can we have a cardiac arrhythmia associated with altering the sinus node? Well, first thing is the sinus node is innervated by the autonomic nervous system. So there's two branches. It's innervated by the sympathetic nervous system and it's innervated by the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system will have neurons that synapse with it, and these neurons will release a neurotransmitter called, what is it? Adrenaline, or if you're in the US, epinephrine. And it will bind to receptors on the SA node, which are called beta-1 adrenergic receptors, all right? Okay, that's important because when the sympathetic nervous system drops its adrenaline at the SA node binding to beta-1 receptors, it can increase the firing of the action potentials. Now, if you increase the firing of the action potentials, what do you think it's going to do? Well, if we're talking about the sympathetic nervous system, it's going to result in increased firing of the sinus node, which means, what do you get? An increase in, well, what we could just call that is sinus tachycardia. So it's firing faster, sinus tachycardia. That makes sense. It's firing off more. All right. The parasympathetic nervous system will also send neurons off to synapse with it. This is mainly via the vagus nerve, right? So this is a vagal signal. And what's the neurotransmitter it's releasing? It's acetylcholine. And it tells the SA node to fire off more slowly, right? So this then is, if this is going to be the parasympathetic nervous system, it results in a decreased firing of the sinus node, and that results in sinus bradycardia. Okay, very easy to understand. But think about this, right? If this sinus bradycardia goes too slow, so if you have too strong a vagal afferents, right? So what could cause the vagus nerve firing off too strongly here? Maybe something like the Valsalva maneuver, right? So the Valsalva maneuver could do it. Maybe it could be beta blockers. Now you might be thinking, why beta blockers? Well, if you're blocking that beta receptor for the sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system is going to be in control, right? So it could be a range of things that stimulate the vagus nerve. If it stimulates it so much that that sinus bradycardia really goes, well below 60 beats per minute, then the latent pacemaker cells must kick into action. And that's the next point, is that latent pacemaker. Latent pacemaker. So again, this happens when the SA node cannot maintain its own rate and the others need to kick in. Which do you think is going to kick in next? The AV node. So the AV node will kick in and now set a new rate and rhythm. This is what we call an escape beat. So latent pacemaker cells will produce what's called an escape beat. And if it maintains, that escape beat becomes an escape rhythm. So escape rhythms are when the latent pacemaker cells, AV node, or the others of the ventricular conduction network, are working to compensate for the SA node not firing off, right? So effectively, it's when the SA node is too slow. You get escape rhythms. Now, what else can happen is that you can have any of the AV node, bundle of hairs, bundle of branches, Purkinje fibers, they can be damaged and they fire off too early, right? Now, if they are damaged and fire off too early, this is important. If they're damaged and fire off too early, you don't have what's called escape beats, you have what's called ectopic beats. And if they continue, they're called ectopic rhythms, right? And so this is still happening in the conduction network, right? And it can happen even of the cells of the SA node and happen in the atria, but it can happen of the atria, the ventricles, and any of these. Now you might be thinking, how is it damaged? Well, it could be, may not be necessarily dying or fully damaged, but it could be drugs, right? So alcohol, for example, and other stronger drugs can do this, but also things like hypoxia, ischemia, and a range of other things can cause the latent pacemaker cells to fire off too early. And then if they fire off too early, they're going to override everything else. So it's when they're firing off faster than the SA node, and you can have ectopic tachycardia. So you can have an ectopic sinus tachycardia, you can have a whole range of different ectopics happening. All right, so the difference between escape beats and rhythms and ectopics is escape beats and rhythms are when the SA node's too slow and the rest of the latent pacemaker cells need to compensate. But ectopics are when the latent pacemaker cells end up going too fast and override the SA node, okay? So that's important. All right, so we've done that. Next we need to talk about, for the altered automaticities, one more, and that's abnormal firing. You might think, wait, we just spoke about abnormal firing. When I talk about abnormal firing, I'm talking about of non-conductile cells. So myocytes. So I'm talking about cells that aren't part of the SA node, AV node, bundle of His, bundle branches, Purkinje fibers. I'm talking about contractile muscle cells, right? They don't have automaticity. They don't spontaneously depolarize. So what is causing them to fire off when they shouldn't? Again, damage. So this could be, again, things like drugs, ischemia, hypoxia, fibrosis and scarring, right? And what they do is they make the membranes of the myocardium weak and the ions become imbalanced. And then you get too much sodium and calcium entering and they fire off too early, okay? So that can happen for abnormal firing. All right, let's talk about triggered activity. Triggered activity is different to altered automaticity. Altered automaticity is the existence of the automatic firing and it's just happening in an abnormal way. Triggered activity is you need an action potential to happen to trigger the next action potential, an abnormal one. Let me draw it up. So for triggered activity, there's two types of triggered activity. There's early after depolarization, and there's delayed after depolarization. So to understand the differences here, what's happening is that if I were to draw up an action potential for a cardiomyocyte, right? So nothing's happening, then you get the depolarization phase, then you get the calcium influx and potassium efflux, so you get the plateau phase. Now, here's the thing. Normally, it'll go down and reset, right? Now, if something happens that prolongs the action potential, so stretches it out for too long, right? If it stretches out for too long, the calcium channels that are resulting in calcium entering, or the sodium channels that resulted in the depolarization phase, if this happens for too long, they can reset and reopen again. So generally, that's not long enough for those sodium channels to then reopen again, right? But if it does happen, they can reopen too early. Just as it's about to begin repolarization, it's starting to go back down and then sodium enters, boom. And you get these little depolarization events happening, right? So it's called early after depolarization, right? You get these little depolarization peaks. And that can happen because either you've got sodium or calcium entering too early, because you've extended the action potential. Sometimes if you have what's called QT elongation, so the QT segment on the ECG is too long and you can get these. Now this is one of the primary causes of what's called torsades du points or torsade du point. Now I'm not very good at my French. Torsade du point, I think I pronounced that right, which is effectively early after depolarization. So the calcium and sodium entering because the action potential is taken too long and those early depolarization channels have reset and they start again. Now delayed after depolarization is different because what's happened is this. You've had the action potential, it goes down and now it's repolarized. But here's the thing, if you've got too much calcium, right, inside the cell, what happens is that it's repolarizing, but then what happens is that there's too much calcium inside the cell, so you activate a sodium-calcium exchanger because it says, oh, I need to get this calcium out. So it throws calcium out, but then throws sodium in. And if it throws sodium in, oh no, what's happening? Another action potential. And that can happen if you've got digitalis toxicity. Digitalis toxicity. So that's a drug, digitalis, right? And that can be a cause of supraventricular tachycardia. Okay, so that is triggered activity. Now, when we talk about conduction block, so we're done with the altered impulse formation. Now we're talking about sending the signal. So the signal's already started. We're now having problems with that signal being sent properly. So one, you can have conduction blocks. Now I'm going to do a whole video on conduction blocks, but effectively it's when the signal's sending and it just hits a wall. Right? Can't get past it. Maybe scarring, fibrosis, damage, whatever it might be. And you can have what's called first degree heart block, second degree heart block, or third degree heart block. Now here's the thing. They're all first degree AV heart block, second degree AV heart block, third degree AV heart block, right? And you might think, well, what about SA heart block? All right. If you had SA nodal heart block, which can happen, what did we say happens when the SA node goes too slow, right, or turns off? You have the latent pacemakers kicking in. You get escape rhythms. So effectively, an SA node block can manifest as escape rhythms. So when we have AV node block and onwards, the first degree AV block, heart block, is when the signal's delayed, but it ends up going through. Second degree AV block is when some signals go through, others don't. And third degree heart block is none of the signals are going through. The ventricles need to figure out what to do. Like I said, I'm going to do a whole video on the conduction blocks. And then finally, re-entry. This is a really interesting one, and the cause of atrial fibrillation, atrial flutter, ventricular tachycardia, and ventricular fibrillation, and SVT. So it can be the cause of those things, not always, but can be. So here's what happens, right, with re-entry. So it's really interesting. All right, so if you had heart muscle and you've got the signal sending down, right? The action potential sending down, and it hits this bifurcation, this split. Generally speaking, it'll send a signal in that direction, a signal in that direction, depolarize over here, depolarize over here. It will also send one here and send one here. And when they meet, they cancel each other out. That's what happens normally. That's fine. That's a nice patterned signal. But if you've got an issue, let's say here, and there is damage to this part of the cell, well, what can happen is interesting, is that the signal begins as normal, but can't travel through there. So it travels down this way, as normal, this way, it doesn't meet with anything. So then it will go back here. Now, if that's fully blocked, it just stops there. You don't get any re-entry issues. But you can have something called unidirectional block, which means it couldn't go that way, but for whatever reason, it can go back that way, and it just makes it go a bit slower. So it does go in and it's going really slow, but it gets through it and then rejoins and then starts the signal again. Now you've got re-entry. This is what's causing the heart to beat way too quick. This is where we get the atrial flutter, atrial fibrillation, ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation, SVT, for example. So that can happen due to unidirectional block, or the cell is damaged in a way where it's just not repolarizing as quickly or resetting as quickly. So when it goes down to depolarize, it says, I'm not ready, I'm still repolarizing, or I'm in a refractory period. And this one goes, oh, fine. And the same thing happens. Can be the cause of all those issues. All right. So that's a summary of cardiac arrhythmias or dysrhythmias. I'm Dr. Mike. Hi everyone, Dr. Mike here. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe. We've got hundreds of others just like this. If you want to contact us, please do so on social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Dr. Mike Todorovic, at DrMikeTodorovic. Speak to you soon.